happily ever after. This kind of insinuates that once you say I do, you're going to live happily ever after. And if it isn't happily ever after all the time, I must have married the wrong one.
Welcome to the Daniele Hage Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Hage. Danielle is my mother-in-law and Nini to my three girls. She is pastor, speaker, and founder of Dynamic Traits. She has 40 years experience in family and marriage relationships. She's been married to Steve Hage for 43 years. He travels the world preaching the gospel, and together they pastor a church in Laguna Niguel, California. So welcome, Danielle.
Thank you.
Today we're talking about widely held beliefs. So 11 marriage myths that people have.
Right.
So we're going to go through those 11 myths and how to debunk them today.
Yes. We're going to tell you the truth. The truth about marriage after 43 years of experience and 13 years of experience, which 15. Is a lot. A lot of people don't even make it to 10 years these days. So you guys are doing good. All right. And you can tell me too, as a younger person, 20-something years younger than me, if you believed any of these growing up, okay? Because I know I did. And I was definitely raised on Disney, in the Cinderella and all the fairy tales.
Find your prince.
Yes, yes. Okay, so marriage myth number one is I got to find the one. As if there's one person out of 8 billion people on the earth that is a perfect match for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just not true. And it kind of leads to an attitude of scarcity, like, oh no, if I don't find the one, there might be an attitude of scarcity, like I'm doomed if I don't find the one. Or how do I know this is the one? Because what if there's someone better?
Yeah.
So you're never going to actually make that commitment, because I have a friend who's into her 60s now. And she said she'd been proposed to more than once, in her 20s and 30s.
Wow.
And she always thought, but there might be someone better. There might be someone. She never got married. And still isn't. And I think she's kind of kicking herself, like thinking, and she also had drank the Kool-Aid about the feminist thing, that being married is a cop-out. Yeah. It's a cop-out for women kind of thing. She told me that recently.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's more than one person that's a fit for you.
Yeah.
There's going to be more than one person. And that's why you see people who maybe they were married for a long time and maybe their spouse died, and then they find a new mate and they feel as much in love as they were with the spouse that had passed away. Yeah. So there's definitely more than one person.
Do you feel like it's more about compatibility?
Yes.
Finding somebody you're compatible with.
Yes.
And you can be compatible with so many.
Yes.
Not so many people. I mean, obviously you choose one.
Right. We can be compatible with, we have chemistry with more than one person. On the earth, we have better or as good a communication with more than one person, and we could be compatible.
And there's still things with the one you choose who you still have to work things with. It's not going to be all fairy tale.
And some women, and I've actually dealt with this. I don't know if this goes with this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. I remember a woman saying, she liked a guy, and then he would send her a text, and she would always call me and say, okay, this is what he said. What should I say back?
Because she's afraid she's going to mess it up?
I don't want to mess it up. Like, I want to. Yeah. And I remember saying to her, well, what do you want to say back? Well, I would say, and I'd say that. Because I don't want to blow it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Back up.
Yeah.
If he's the one, you can't blow it with the right person.
Yeah.
You're right? Because he or she, they're going to love even your idiosyncrasies, your faults, your flaws.
Or they're going to find out very quickly after marriage when crap hits the
fan.
When
you're not
that's
perfect.
Not who you are.
Exactly.
That's not how you respond.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I would just always encourage people like that, say what you want to say, be real, be authentic. If being your most authentic self is going to scare somebody away, scare them away quick, right?
Yeah.
Be as authentic as you can be from the get-go and scare them away fast. If you can scare them away, they need to go away.
That's why I think meeting somebody in an activity that you like to do or an environment that you enjoy being in where you are your authentic self, I think it's by the grace of God that Chris and I were friends for 3 years before we were romantic and decided to get married, because with a friend and a friend group, you aren't afraid to be yourself.
Yeah.
You
Right.
are your authentic self, your quirks, your highs, your lows. They kind of see all those valleys and seasons that you go through as a friend. And then it's not a surprise and you're not trying to put on this mask
Right.
when you start to date.
Yeah. The only time you're not being your authentic self is when you're trying to win somebody's
Yeah.
approval. You want to be liked by them, even with friends a lot of times, until you get to know people and they get to know you. But, a lot of times you're on your best behavior when you maybe get into a new friend group or make a new friend because you so desperately want their approval and their respect and them to think you're really cool. And especially if you're looking for the one or a romantic endeavor with somebody, we tend to want to be on our best behavior. And I'm not saying be on your worst behavior, just be you.
Authentic.
Be who you
Authentic
are.
and vulnerable.
Yes.
I think a micro myth of this too, of the one is, I don't know if I necessarily believed there was the one, but there was a lot of talk, especially through my 20s with girlfriends of, did I let the one go? And I think one of the micro myths is the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
And really with anybody that you have compatibility with and you choose to create a life with, because you're going to grow, whether you get married in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you're going to continue to grow together and the grass is greener where you water it.
Right.
No matter who you choose to have in that pasture with you, or if the one let go and you married somebody else, whatever, it's going to be, the grass is not greener on the other side.
That's right.
That that fairy tale marriage did not slip away from you.
Right.
It wasn't God's timing. You need to put in with what you have right now.
That's right. Okay, so number 2 marriage myth is happily ever after. This kind of insinuates that once you say I do, you're going to live happily ever after. And if it isn't happily ever after all the time, I must have married the wrong one. I didn't pick the right one because now we're having problems, which is so silly. Of course, there's going to be struggles. Of course, there's going to be conflict. You're bringing 2 people together that had been raised completely different by different parents, had different modeling, and they did the best they could do with what they had to raise you, and they put into you all kinds of stuff, and then you have to match up what you know with somebody else's what they know. And a lot of times it doesn't match up. You're doing the best with what you got.
Or you just don't know what conversations to have before getting married. You could be, for example, Christian was raised with a stay-at-home mom and you were there for them. I was raised with a mom who worked. And even though we had those conversations and knew our backgrounds were a little bit different and respected that, we didn't know how that was going to play out in marriage until we had children, went through some job things, went through some transitions. There's no way we could
figure it all out.
Yeah, see that ahead of time. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just know happily ever after is, I think people go into marriage believing that they're going to be married forever, right? That's why we make that commitment. That's why we sign the papers. We have a covenant with them, but not everything is always going to be happy, and that's okay. It's just human nature. It's human behavior. Learning to work and deal with the people that we're married to. It's not even so much like, I married the wrong one. It's about learning to love the one that you did choose, learning to love the one that you married. Because after marriage, you're going to find out all kinds of new things about them. Even though you think you know each other so well before, when you actually live together and you're married, and then you start making purchases, buying homes and cars and work and having children, all those things are cause for new communication and learning how to deal. Maybe you weren't disciplined the way that, I was disciplined as a kid. And so we have to learn, how are we going to raise our kids? What are we going to be the ground rules? How are we going to discipline them? Hopefully you'll have a lot of those conversations before marriage because that's really important.
Yeah. But some of them you just don't, you just don't know how to.
Yeah. It's hard to cover all the bases.
Yeah. Or even another thing that's come up to us is what type of house do we want to live in? Where do we want to live? Are we city people? Are we country people? Are we in the middle, suburban? Which seems so moot and I don't care. I'm so in love. I'll follow him wherever until it comes time to actually.
And you guys met in the city.
Yeah.
That's where your stomping grounds were in a big city.
You're so in love and it's just wherever we go, I'll follow him, and it's oh no, I actually, I have some opinions about this.
Right.
And how that all lines up. So have you met couples, counseled couples, been around couples who are preparing so much for the wedding that they are missing some of those yellow flags, those red flags during that engagement period where they're so focused on the wedding and they're not preparing for the marriage. I've heard that before.
Well, I think if they get married really fast,
Yeah.
before they really know each other, that could be a problem where, okay, he's the one, she's the one, we're going to get married. Now let's start planning the wedding. And before, like, I believe that you need to go through 2 full seasons of knowing somebody at least. Like 2 years. You've gone through every season. Some people say go through 3 years.
Yeah.
Before, I had 18 months with my husband.
Yeah.
And then we got married. My daughter, first daughter, you two knew each other
We did.
already for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
My first daughter dated a guy for 3 years before
Yeah.
they got married because you really need to get to know each other in all the different aspects of life. How do they treat people? How are they around my friends?
Yeah.
How do they treat me when I'm around his friends?
Right.
Like,
right.
how is it with the parents and the siblings? Like,
Yeah.
you need to see a person, their
How they
true
navigate
colors
those lives.
in
Yeah.
all those different aspects of
That's
life.
good.
Yeah. All right. Number 3 is love at first sight. So I remember talking to one man, and I always ask men when I do my seminars and I have a panel of men, and I always say, do you believe in love at first sight? And some people really, really, really do believe that. One man, I thought it was so great. He said, oh yeah, it happens to me like 7 or 8 times every single day.
Yeah.
Meaning he is,
Attracted.
it's lust at first
Yeah.
sight. He's seeing attractive women and it's like, oh, I'm in love. But
Yeah.
that's not real. You can't really fall in love with someone just by looking at their appearance.
Yeah.
You've got to get to know them. Like physical attraction, yes, you can be attracted sexually or physically just looking at their appearance.
Yeah.
But for the emotional attraction to kick in, which is the glue that keeps a relationship together, you got to get to know them. All the different aspects, all the different sides of them, to see if you are emotionally attracted to them. And a lot of times when you start to get to know them beneath the surface, it will either enhance the physical attraction you already have, or it will dim the physical attraction. Because how many of you have met a person thinking, oh, they're so good looking, get to know them, and their personality sucks.
Right.
Or they're not
you're just
kind,
not compatible,
or
there's no there's no spark there.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot. We've had several podcasts where we've talked about attraction, men to women, women to men, and the different types of attraction. Yeah. And I think if you buy into that myth, especially as a woman, because a lot of times attraction grows.
Yes.
We get emotionally bonded. We fall in love with activity and, how we're treated and being cherished.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that physical attraction develops
even
over
stronger.
time. Yeah. Yep. So I think as women, if we buy into that belief, you're missing out on a good man because you are thinking it's just going to be the first guy I see or the guy that I see and I fall in love with him and we met eyes and
I talk to women all the time. I have a lot of single women friends who are on dating sites and they'll say, I'm just not attracted to anybody. And I will say, don't let that stop you. If you're just initially looking at him, unless you're just disgusted or repulsed by how he looks, like you need to give it a chance, have a conversation, get to know them, because there might be something about his personality that sparks something in you. I was not attracted to my husband physically when I first met him at all. There was nothing. And it wasn't until we became friends, we started hanging around with different groups of people together, that I was just kind of observing him and going, oh my gosh, like I became interested, more and more interested in him, because I started getting to know his personality, his sense of humor, his intellect. And I could not believe how suddenly I became physically attracted to him, because it was doing something emotionally to me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he became so handsome, so good looking. And I was like, that is so weird, but it's a real thing. That's a real thing. So love at first sight, I do believe it is a myth.
Yes.
All right. Number 4, all you need is love. If you love each other, you can work through anything. I would love to believe that. I would really love to believe that, but you need more than love. Okay. Love is not a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. It's a behavior. It's a decision. It's a commitment. You're not going to wake up every morning 5 years, 2 years down the road after marriage and feel that in love sensation that you felt, that euphoric high that you've once upon a time felt because it fades. It doesn't mean the love has faded, but the feeling, that kind of passionate feeling does, the chemistry fades over time. That's why love is a decision. You choose to love a person through thick and thin, till death do us part, for in better and for worse and for better. You make those decisions to love. Even we were having a conversation this morning at mine and Steve's lowest point in our marriage about, I don't know. Well, I mean, we've had some low points over the years, but probably our lowest point, when I was so angry at him, I felt like I hated him. I still loved him.
Yeah.
I knew I loved him. I loved this man, although I was really ticked. And he's probably felt those same things toward me. But I knew that if we could just wait it out, that those feelings come back. And then, of course, you do things to keep the passion alive. You do plan romantic outings and getaways, and you got to work on it. You got to do things. You get, we did a whole podcast on how to keep the spark alive.
Yeah.
But love what was the one? All you need is love. I believe you need communication. Okay. You need compatibility. You need other things to enhance that bond. Okay. It's going to take more than just love.
Yeah. And there's different types of love.
Yeah. Different.
There's
like 4 different types.
Yeah. The eros, is that how you say it?
That's the sexual, sensual love that draws you together to begin with.
Yeah.
That eros love.
Okay.
And then what's
and
another
then
one?
There's storge.
Storge.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the family love.
Okay.
The love you have for your siblings, your parents,
Gotcha.
your cousins, that family type of love, your children.
Yep. And then there's phileo.
And that is like friendship, like bros, girlfriends, the love you have for people around you that you have a deep connection with as friends.
Mm-hmm. And then there's agape love.
Agape love. And that's the love that covers all. That's how God loves the world, how God loves each and every person, which really needs to we need to get to the place where we can have that agape love for people, especially for our spouses. Even when they're bugging us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like that I had that agape love for my husband, even at our lowest times, because I know how I'm loved by God and I'm able to share that with people around me, and especially people that get on
So
your
the
nerves.
best marriages who have made it through some of these valleys that you're talking about, is it that multifaceted love? Do we strive? I don't know if strive's the right word, but do we strive for all 4 of those multifacets of love? Or is it really like agape kind of is the
encompasses all of them?
The umbrella?
I think so, because when you have that eros love with your spouse, eventually when that kind of starts to fade, it turns into that friendship. And people will even say, marry someone that you are best of friends with, that you just so enjoy.
I tell Christian that all the time.
Their company. That you just, and it became, when that started fading with Steve and I, that the whole passion thing, we were such good friends. We could talk for hours upon hours. Like we had that.
Well, there's an intimacy to that as well. And if you truly find intimacy in that, I mean, that's fulfilling as well. I think.
So you have the sexual love for your spouse. You have the friendship love for your spouse. You have the is it the storge, the family
familial
love, because he's your husband.
Yep.
And then the agape is the basic love. Even if you weren't to make it and you were to get divorced, you could still have that agape love, which a lot of people, like, that's part of the grieving of a breakup in a relationship, is they feel like they're not going to be loved anymore, or they can't love that person. You can break up with the person and still love them. It's just, maybe it's not going to work. You're not
with some boundaries,
a fit or a match.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So those create like a beacon of hope.
Yes.
Too. Yes. When the feeling is like,
not there.
I can't stand you. I don't want to be in the same room right now. But the true love that you can develop is a beacon of hope to get you through those things.
Yes, absolutely.
That's good. All right, number 5.
Honeymoon grace period. This is like, you hear a lot about this. You hear this said, or you see it in the movies, that, after you say I do, the minute you say I do, then there's this honeymoon grace period. And you'll hear people say, oh, you're newlyweds. Oh, you're still on your honeymoon. You've only been married 6 months, or you're only a year old in your marriage, right? And really what the honeymoon grace period is that nothing's going to go wrong. We're going to live happily ever after. It's the beginning of happily ever after. And then once there's a problem, it's like, the grace period's over.
Yeah.
But really, the grace period is only lasts as long as it takes for that euphoric state of feeling to fade.
Yeah.
And then people get nervous when that starts to fade. They're like, I'm not in love anymore. I fell out of love. When I hear people say, well, I just didn't love him anymore. I want to say, you don't understand what love is.
Yeah.
You chose not to love them anymore.
Yeah.
So you divorced. It wasn't that you because if love was based on feeling, I would say I don't love my husband. I don't love you. I don't love anybody. If it's based on commitment, then
yes,
I've committed. I'm committed to my family. I'm committed to my friends. I'm committed to my husband. So, yeah,
that's good. Okay.
All right. Number 6.
That's a good one.
If I marry for money, I'll be happy. I need to find a rich, successful man.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'm going to be happy.
I
see that all over social media right now. And I just think it's a joke. I think it's a joke because number one, a rich, super successful man probably is a workaholic. Maybe not always. I know there's exceptions. And they spend a lot of time making money, a lot of time. Yeah. I've even heard it said by a psychologist that rich, successful men are the ones that get cheated on by their wives because they're so busy at work.
Unavailable.
They're unavailable.
Yeah.
They can't meet her needs emotionally because they're never there.
Yeah.
They're never around because all they do is work. Yeah. And so this little wife at home that doesn't have to work because he makes all the money, she's bored. Lonely. She's got no purpose. She's not. Yeah. And so might be open to, the flattering tongue of somebody else. So, and I'm not saying that's going to happen to you if you marry somebody who makes a lot of money. I'm just saying it may not
the reason.
all be what it's set up to be.
Well, and it's a never-ending hole. So if you marry for money, you're marrying at a certain status. It's like, if I have this, then I'll be happy. Right. If I have this, then I'll feel content. Well, that's just an ongoing chase because really if you're chasing, you're chasing the money, if you're chasing things, you're chasing what can I get with that? Right. And those things get old. The cars,
you get
rust
bored
and get old. The furniture goes out of style. Like, what is it? Then you're constantly chasing this something that isn't truly fulfilling.
It's a counterfeit form of contentment. Yeah, I need more and more and more. It's only going to keep me content for a certain amount of time, and then I got to go to the next level. Yeah. And here's the other thing. What if your rich, successful, hardworking husband loses it all? Yeah. You know how many people lose their kingdom after some years because something goes wrong in our world? Like, we lost everything, 3 homes, all our cars, pretty much our whole bank account in 2008. And it wasn't because of anything we really did wrong. It was because of the what was happening in our world at that time. Yeah, it was just like we went into this kind of almost like a depression, I think is what not a depression, but a repression, what they called it. And where everybody's loans were up, loans were upside down. And if I had married my man for money, I would be like, okay, done. Yeah. Because he can't provide. He's not providing what he wants provided. But we made it through those times because I loved him for who he was, not for what he could provide for me. Yeah. And so money comes and money goes. And so if you marry for more than just money, you've got something to take you through those hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something to be said for building together.
Absolutely.
You've talked about the stages of men on different podcasts. Yeah. And starting with not much. And building together. That's right. Building your kingdom together.
Yeah. And we started young and we were in it together. Steve and I were going full time into ministry and family, and we built together. Some men are, they want to build their kingdom and then move their wife in, move their queen in after they have their kingdom. And that just depends on the man.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to pause right there. We've gone through 6 of the marriage myths. So do you want to recap for us real quick what those 6 marriage myths are that we talked about today?
Yes. Okay. So number 1, the one, as if there's only one. Number 2, happily ever after. Number 3, love at first sight. 4, all you need is love. 5, the honeymoon grace period, that blissful, magical period after I do. And number 6, if I marry for money, I'll be happy.
So good. So good. It was awesome today. We're going to talk about 5 more on the next episode.
Next week.
One that I'm really looking forward to is all others will be ugly after
that's the
I
best
do.
one.
I think that's the last one we're going to talk about. So 5 more next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, share it with somebody, hit the notification bell so that you know when that next episode is coming at you. And it helps if you leave a comment or any questions down below. And make sure you follow Danielle on Instagram and Facebook.